Hey kids, it's me, your friend from Curious Kids Factory. Today, we're going to learn some super cool facts about the history of the United States. Are you ready? Let's go. We'll meet some famous people, learn about big events, and see how things have changed. History is like a big storybook full of exciting tales and amazing characters, and the story of the United States is one of the biggest and best. We'll talk about explorers, presidents, inventors, and brave people who helped make America what it is today. So put on your thinking caps and get your adventure shoes ready, because we're about to explore some really neat stuff.
Whoa, our first stop is way back in the year 1492. That's a super long time ago. There was a brave explorer named Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus loved adventures just like us. He had a big idea. He wanted to sail across the giant Atlantic Ocean. He thought if he sailed west, he could find a new way to get to a place called the Indies. So Christopher Columbus got 3 ships. Their names were the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The sailors on board were very brave because it was a long journey. They sailed for many days and many nights. Then one day, after sailing for a really long time, more than 2 months, a sailor shouted, "Land ho!" They had reached a new place they didn't know about before. Christopher Columbus and his sailors had arrived at islands in the Americas. He thought he had reached the Indies, but it was actually a whole new world for the people from Europe. Isn't that amazing?
Fast forward a little bit in our history time machine. Vroom, vroom, beep, beep. We're now in the year 1776. That's another very important year. At this time, the land that would become the United States was made up of 13 colonies. The people in the American colonies felt like the King of Great Britain wasn't being fair. They wanted to be free and independent. Freedom is super important, like being able to choose what game you want to play. So, a group of very smart people, called the Founding Fathers, got together in a city called Philadelphia. They wrote a super important letter, a very special document. It was called the Declaration of Independence. One of the most famous people who helped write the Declaration of Independence was Thomas Jefferson. The Declaration said that all people have special rights, like the right to life, liberty, that means freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. That means being able to do things that make you happy. Signing the Declaration of Independence was a huge step. It meant the colonies were saying, "We are now the United States of America." But it also meant they would have to fight a war, the Revolutionary War, to win their freedom from Great Britain.
After the United States won its freedom and became a brand new country, hooray, they needed a leader, someone strong, brave, and wise to be the very first president. Can you guess who it was? That's right, it was George Washington. George Washington was a super important person. He was a general who helped lead the American soldiers during the Revolutionary War. George Washington was so respected and trusted by everyone. When it was time to choose the first president, everyone thought of him. He became president in 1789. That's a long time ago, but his story is still so cool. As the first president, George Washington had to figure out a lot of new things. He helped set up the new government and made sure everything started off on the right foot. George Washington served as president for 2 terms, which is 8 years. Then, he decided it was time for someone else to be president. He showed that in America, leaders should change peacefully. That's super important.
Chapter 4. Abraham Lincoln and the Big Fight, the Civil War. Let's zoom forward in our history time machine. Whoosh! We're going to the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. The country was divided into the North, Union, and the South, Confederacy. One big reason for the war was slavery. President Abraham Lincoln believed the U.S. should stay united and end slavery. The Civil War was long and hard, with many people fighting and getting hurt. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring slaves in the Confederate States free.
Chapter 5. Up, Up, and Away. The Wright Brothers Flying Machine. Get ready to fly, everyone. We're jumping to the year 1903. Woo-hoo! For thousands of years, people dreamed of flying. Then two amazing brothers came along. Their names were Orville and Wilbur Wright. We call them the Wright brothers. Say Wright brothers. Awesome. The Wright brothers owned a bicycle shop. They were very good at building things. They thought, maybe we can build a machine that flies. Finally, on a windy day in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, it was time for the big test. Orville Wright was the pilot for the very first flight. Their airplane, called the Wright Flyer, lifted into the air. Whoosh, it flew, it really flew. That first flight changed the world forever. It was the beginning of airplanes and air travel. Because of the Wright brothers, today we can fly all over the world. We can visit faraway places and explore new countries.
Chapter 6. Martin Luther King Jr. and his dream for everyone. Let's move our history adventure to the 1950s and 60s. This was a very important time called the Civil Rights Movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a key leader who fought for equal rights. He was a minister and a powerful speaker. He believed in peaceful protest. Dr. King inspired many to stand up for what was right. His "I Have a Dream" speech is legendary. He dreamed of a future where people are judged by their character, not skin color.
Chapter 7. To the Moon. Neil Armstrong's giant leap. Get your astronaut helmets on, kids, because we're blasting off to space. Zoom! On July 20th, 1969, a NASA mission called Apollo 11 reached the moon. Wow, there were 3 astronauts on this mission: Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. And then, the Eagle landed. Neil Armstrong was the very first human ever to step onto the surface of the moon. They collected moon rocks, planted an American flag, and bounced around because the moon has less gravity than Earth. Boing, boing. Going to the moon was a giant leap that opened up a whole new universe of possibilities.
Outro, our history adventure ends for now. Wow, kids! We learned so much about the history of the United States today. We traveled way back in time to meet Christopher Columbus and his ships. Then we saw the Declaration of Independence being signed. Hooray for freedom! We also soared through the skies with the Wright brothers and their first airplane, and we learned about Martin Luther King Jr.'s powerful dream for equality. And then zoom! We blasted off to the moon with Neil Armstrong. Thanks for joining me, your friend from Curious Kids Factory, on this super fun adventure. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Remember all the cool things we learned and keep being curious about the world around you. There's always something new to discover. See you next time for another exciting adventure. Bye-bye.